A wine glass shattered under the opulent glow of chandeliers, and with it, Olivia Harper's heart broke into pieces. She had secretly poured millions of dollars into her husband Julian's tech empire, only to witness him crown his mistress as CEO before the eyes of all Silicon Valley. The pain was excruciating, yet a fierce rage ignited within her. She was no weakling. Deep in Olivia's soul, a earth-shattering secret and a plan for vengeance were taking shape. Would she reclaim everything or succumb to the shadows? Brace yourself for an emotional journey of justice that will leave you breathless. All right, my dear viewers, get ready to dive into a story that will leave you absolutely speechless. Take just a moment to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below, letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see someone joining us from all corners of the globe. Crystal chandeliers in the Four Seasons Hotel in San Francisco cast shimmering rays of light across the ballroom, as if adorning a dream. The elite of Silicon Valley glided past one another in expensive attire, their laughter and the clink of glasses mingling with the scent of luxurious perfume. In a secluded corner, Olivia Harper stood quietly, her delicate hands clutching a glass of red wine. Her elegant black dress hugged her frame, concealing the gentle curve of her 4-month pregnant belly, a fragile, precious secret she cherished like a final ember of hope. Tonight, she had envisioned a perfect moment, the moment she would share her joyful news with her husband Julian, and pull them back from the brink of their widening distance. Nexus Tech, the pioneering tech company founded by Julian Pierce, was celebrating a dazzling decade. The room brimmed with powerful figures, venture capitalists, brilliant engineers, and Silicon Valley's social media stars. All were drawn to Julian's magnetic pull, a man with a confident smile and piercing eyes, as if born to command. Olivia, in contrast, always chose the role of an observer. She was not the focal point under the spotlight, but a quiet silhouette behind the scenes, content to watch her husband shine. Yet tonight, something hung in the air, a sharp premonition, like an invisible blade grazing her heart. She noticed the furtive glances, the whispered smiles among Julian's colleagues. She convinced herself it was merely stress from recent months, the late-night calls he dismissed as work, the unfamiliar perfume lingering on his suit jacket, the silences between them stretching like a chasm. The baby, she thought, would change everything. It would be the bridge, the fresh start to mend the cracks she had tried to ignore. Olivia gently placed a hand on her belly, feeling the warmth of the life growing within, and a faint smile curved her lips as she imagined pulling Julian aside from the crowd to whisper her news. But then, the stage lights flared, and Julian strode to the podium. He was the embodiment of power in a perfectly tailored Armani suit, his deep, resonant voice echoing, captivating every gaze. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "for 10 years, Nexus Tech has shaped the future of technology. But the future demands a bold new vision, a daring leader." Olivia's heart raced, a mix of pride and unease. She waited, naively hoping he might acknowledge her, the silent partner who had sacrificed to make his dream real. Instead, Julian turned to the front row, where Sofia Vega rose with the grace of a movie star. Her fiery red dress blazed like a flame against the room's muted tones, commanding every eye. "I am proud to introduce the new CEO of Nexus Tech," Julian declared, his voice brimming with emotion. "Sofia Vega." The room erupted in applause, but for Olivia, time seemed to freeze. Sofia ascended the stage, her hand entwining tightly with Julian's in a gesture so intimate it was agonizing. Their smiles, the way their eyes locked, each was a dagger piercing Olivia's chest. The wine glass slipped from her numb fingers, crashing onto the marble floor with a sharp, shattering sound. The noise seemed to echo only in her ears, for no one else noticed. Every gaze was fixed on the radiant couple on stage, a portrait of power and passion. Olivia stood frozen, the ground seeming to crumble beneath her. Her secret pregnancy, her dream of a family, and a decade of sacrifice were torn apart before hundreds of witnesses. Her heart, once beating with hope, was now a heap of ashes. Yet within those ashes, a spark of anger began to smolder. A wave of pain surged through Olivia Harper's chest, sharp and unstoppable, as the image of Julian and Sophia hand in hand on the stage burned vividly in her mind. She stood motionless in a shadowed corner of the Four Seasons ballroom, the opulent chandeliers overhead mocking her shattered state. The thunderous applause of Silicon Valley's elite echoed around her, but to Olivia, it was merely the buzz of an alien world where she no longer belonged. The wineglass lay broken at her feet, its glittering shards like the remnants of a once radiant dream. In that moment, amid a storm of emotions, a bitter truth rose, cold and cutting as a blade. Nexus Tech, the dazzling tech empire the world admired, was not Julian Pierce's dream alone. 10 years ago, in a modest Oakland apartment, Olivia, a quiet data analyst with neatly tied hair and eyes alight with dreams, sat across from Julian on a worn wooden floor. He, a brilliant software engineer with empty pockets, spread sketches and spreadsheets around them, his hands trembling with fervor. His idea, a groundbreaking tech platform for data security, promised to change the world. But investors had turned their backs, scoffing at his lack of a prototype. "Olivia," he had said, clutching her hand, his voice quivering with desperation and hope. "Give me one chance, and I can make it happen." Her heart melted at that passion, at the gaze of the man she loved, the man she believed could touch the stars. She didn't tell him right away, but in her heart, Olivia knew she held the key. Her grandfather, a seasoned San Jose entrepreneur, had left her a trust fund of $600,000, a secret gift she guarded like a shield for her future. It was her independence, the legacy of a man who believed women must stand tall. Yet, gazing into Julian's blazing eyes, she saw a different future. One where he was a titan, and she was the wind lifting him skyward. She chose to invest every dollar into his vision, but with a delicate condition. Her role had to remain hidden. Olivia didn't want the world whispering that Julian succeeded because of his rich wife. She wanted him recognized, his genius shining unmarred by her shadow. So, she quietly transferred the funds, signing papers with the caution of a woman who understood the value of silence. She became the silent investor, the figure behind the curtain, content to watch Julian ascend stages, basking in applause and admiring glances. Every milestone of Nexus Tech, from its first office in Palo Alto to multi-million-dollar deals with tech giants, bore her invisible mark. But now, standing amid the wreckage of her heart, Olivia saw the naivety of that choice. Julian had taken her money, her dream, to build a future without her. He had handed the crown of the empire she had ceded, to Sofia Vega, a woman with a smug smile and eyes brimming with ambition. The pain wasn't just from romantic betrayal. It was deeper, a wound slicing into Olivia's very identity. She had sacrificed her own reputation, her own dreams, to become a shadow in Julian's story. She had stepped back so he could stride forward, but he hadn't just moved on. He had raced into another's arms, carrying her achievements with him. In that moment, amid the lavish laughter and sparkling lights, Olivia felt erased from the very story she had written. Yet, deep within her, a spark flared, not of hope, but of awakening. She was not just the forgotten wife. She was the architect of Nexus Tech, and she would not let it fall into the hands of a thief. The penthouse in San Francisco's Pacific Heights was cloaked in a chilling silence as Olivia Harper stepped inside, her high heels clicking rhythmically on the polished hardwood floor. City lights twinkled through floor-to-ceiling windows, but the apartment, once a warm haven for her and Julian, now felt like a lavish tomb, entombing the vanished years of happiness. She paused in the living room, where the glow of a table lamp illuminated a white leather sofa. There, like a cruel mockery, A vibrant red silk scarf lay draped carelessly. A sweet, unfamiliar perfume clung to the air. Not hers, but Sofia Vega's. Pain, sharp as the shards of the wine glass shattered at the Four Seasons, pierced Olivia's heart. Yet this time it didn't bring her to her knees. Instead, it ignited a cold, razor-sharp flame, ready to consume everything in its path. She moved to the coat rack near the door, where Julian's gray suit jacket still carried that same perfume, an undeniable trace of betrayal. The late-night texts she had tried to ignore, brief, cryptic messages flickering on his phone screen, now resurfaced vividly in her mind. Late meeting, don't wait up. Crazy busy weekend, babe. She had woven excuses for him, convincing herself it was merely the pressure of Nexus Tech, that Julian was still the man she loved. But now the truth emerged, brutal and inescapable. He hadn't just deceived her. He had used the very empire she built to crown Sophia queen. Olivia felt her chest tighten, but it was no longer from anguish. A cold, steely rage was rising, forged like steel in fire. She stepped into her private study, a sanctuary amid oak bookshelves fragrant with the scent of time and well-worn notebooks. This room was hers alone, not Julian's, not Nexus Tech's, where she had spent countless hours analyzing data, dreaming of a shared future. She pulled a faux book from the shelf, revealing a small safe. Inside lay the pivotal document, the investment contract she signed 10 years ago, a fragile sheet of paper wielding the power of a bomb. It stipulated that her $600,000 investment in Nexus Tech could be converted into a 55% controlling stake, a clause Julian had signed without hesitation, perhaps because he never imagined she would use it. Her fingers traced the dry legal text, but in her mind, they were a declaration of war. This contract was more than paper. It was proof of her sacrifice, of sleepless nights working to fuel Julian's dream, of her own aspirations set aside so he could shine. She had chosen to be the gentle wife, the figure behind the curtain, but Julian had mistaken her gentleness for weakness. He thought she would quietly retreat, fading like a shadow. He was wrong. Olivia closed the safe, her gaze hardening like granite. She walked to the window, looking down at the streets of Pacific Heights, where luxury cars glided through the night's glow. The baby in her womb, a new life she had once hoped would bridge her to Julian, now became the flame fueling her resolve. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling its fragile warmth, and whispered a vow. She would reclaim what was hers, not just for herself, but for her child's future. The gentle wife, the one who always yielded, had dissolved like fog under San Francisco's sun. In her place, a warrior was born, with a heart of steel and an unyielding will. The penthouse, once a home, was now a battlefield, and Olivia was ready to fight. The morning sun filtered through the trees in Palo Alto, casting gentle patches of light onto the small but elegant law office of Claire Nguyen. Olivia Harper stepped inside, her low-heeled shoes tapping steadily on the wooden floor. Yet her heart pounded fiercely in her chest, as if she stood at the edge of a fateful crossroads. She wore a gray cashmere sweater, concealing the subtle curve of her 4-month pregnant belly, but her eyes no longer belonged to the broken wife of last night. A silent fire burned within her, a sharp resolve forged from pain and betrayal. Claire Nguyen, her former Stanford classmate, rose from a walnut desk, her smile both warm and razor-sharp. With her black hair neatly tied back and eyes that seemed to pierce through every secret, Claire exuded the aura of someone who never lost in a courtroom. Olivia sat down, placing her leather bag on her lap, feeling as though she held her entire future within it. She recounted her story, not with tears, but with a chilling clarity. Julian's betrayal, the ceremony anointing Sofia Vega as CEO, and the secret of the $600,000 investment that had built Nexus Tech. Claire listened, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk, her gaze never leaving Olivia. When she finished, Claire leaned forward, her voice low and resolute. "If what you say is true, Olivia, you're not just a victim. You're the one in control." Those words pierced the fog of despair in Olivia's mind like a beam of light, rekindling a sensation she had long forgotten: power. Claire agreed to review the investment contract, but demanded to see the original document. Olivia nodded, her heart racing at the thought of the safe at Wells Fargo in downtown San Francisco, where she kept the contract like a sacred talisman. It was more than a piece of paper. It was a legal bombshell, a meticulously drafted agreement from 10 years ago stipulating that her $600,000 investment could be converted into a 55% controlling stake in Nexus Tech. Olivia recalled the moment she and Julian signed it, in a dusty law office in Oakland. He had laughed, calling it a formality, but she, with the instincts of a data analyst, had insisted on keeping it secure. Now, that paper was her only weapon, proof that she, not Julian, was the true majority stakeholder of the empire he sought to steal. Claire, after hearing about the contract, raised an eyebrow, a subtle smile flickering across her face. She proposed a bold move, sending a formal demand letter to Julian, declaring Olivia's control and nullifying Sophia's appointment as CEO. "This will be the first shot," Claire said, her voice calm but weighted with the authority of a strategist. "It will force Julian to face the truth. He doesn't own Nexus Tech as he thinks." Olivia felt a surge of adrenaline course through her, but Claire raised a hand, her expression stern. "But I warn you, Olivia, Julian won't sit idly by. He'll fight back, and this battle could get dirty. He'll use lawyers, the media, anything to smear you. Are you ready?" The question hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Olivia gazed out the window, where cars glided along El Camino Real, and thought of the baby in her womb. She had spent a decade living for Julian's dream, setting aside her own, only to be erased from her own story. But now, she wasn't fighting just for herself. She was fighting for her child, for a future untainted by betrayal. She turned back, her eyes locking with Claire's, and nodded. "I'm ready." The words were not loud, but they carried the weight of a vow. In that small office, amid file cabinets and Palo Alto's sunlight, Olivia felt a profound shift. She was no longer the silent wife. She was a contender, and the war had only just begun. The sky over Menlo Park hung gray and heavy on Tuesday morning, as if mirroring the storm brewing within the Nexus Tech headquarters. A demand letter from Olivia Harper's lawyer, couriered swiftly from Palo Alto, lay on Julian Pierce's desk like a grenade with its pin pulled. The letter, with its cold legal prose, declared Olivia the majority shareholder of Nexus Tech, holding a 55% stake based on an investment contract from 10 years prior, and demanded the nullification of Sofia Vega's appointment as CEO. Julian, in his navy suit that once made him look like a tech king, now resembled a cornered beast. His eyes blazed red, his hands clutching the letter until the paper crumpled. In a moment of lost control, he tore an expensive abstract glass painting from the meeting room wall, a symbol of Nexus Tech's vision, and hurled it to the floor. The sound of shattering glass echoed, underscored by his roar. "Olivia is destroying my legacy." Outside the meeting room, employees accustomed to Julian's calm demeanor quietly steered clear of the door. But within, his rage was not just a reaction to the letter. It was fear, a gnawing dread that the perfect world he had built, with Sofia by his side and Nexus Tech under his command, was teetering. He couldn't fathom that Olivia, the gentle wife he had deemed invisible, dared to challenge him. In his mind, she was merely a supporter, a faint shadow in his glorious story. But this letter, with its undeniable legal seal, was a brutal reminder that he had underestimated her. Julian wasted no time mounting a counterattack. He summoned Sofia Vega, who appeared in a form-fitting black dress, her confident smile masking a fleeting glint of unease. They enlisted a renowned team of lawyers from Los Angeles, corporate sharks known for handling multi-million-dollar disputes. Within 48 hours, the lawyers crafted a sharp rebuttal, claiming the $600,000 Olivia invested was a marital gift, a sentimental gesture between spouses, devoid of legal weight in corporate disputes. They dismissed the investment contract as a meaningless scrap, signed in a naive moment of love, and accused Olivia of weaponizing her marriage for revenge. But their true strike was a calculated offer, a $5 million divorce settlement, including ownership of the Pacific Heights penthouse, on the condition that Olivia withdraw and disappear from Nexus Tech. The offer arrived at Claire and Gwen's Palo Alto office, where Olivia sat across from her, hands clasped tightly on her lap to hide a faint tremble. As Claire read the letter aloud, her voice calm but laced with a mocking edge, Olivia felt a rush of hot blood to her face. $5 million, a sum that could sway anyone. The penthouse, where she once dreamed of a family, was now dangled as bait. But what enraged her was not the money. It was the audacity of Julian and Sophia. They thought she could be bought, that she would sell her effort, her dream, and her very dignity for silence. They were trying to purchase her with the very money she had used to build Nexus Tech. Olivia lifted her gaze, locking eyes with Claire, no trace of hesitation remaining. "They're trying to buy me with my own money," she said, her voice low but sharp as a blade. "I don't want a ransom. I want the company." Those words were not just a statement. They were a vow, forged from the pain of betrayal and the blazing fire of resolve within her. Claire nodded, a subtle smile crossing her lips, as if witnessing the birth of a warrior. Olivia felt the baby in her womb, a small but mighty life, reminding her that this fight was not just for her. She would not let Julian and Sophia steal her legacy, or her child's future. Their letter was a challenge, but Olivia was ready to strike back. A cold wind swept through San Francisco's Mission District, carrying the scent of roasted coffee and the hum of city life. Yet Olivia Harper felt a different chill, the icy weight of unseen eyes tracking her every move. Just days after the demand letter for control of Nexus Tech was sent to Julian, she sensed a shift in the air. A black car lingered too long near her temporary apartment. The hurried clicks of camera shutters followed her as she stepped out of a small shop. Paparazzi, hired by the invisible hands of Julian and Sophia, trailed her like shadows, turning each step through this vibrant neighborhood into a gauntlet. Olivia, her wool coat concealing her pregnant belly, clenched her fists to suppress the unease. But deep within, her flame of resolve burned unwavering, fueled by the audacity of her enemies. The assault didn't stop at surveillance. One morning, a handwritten letter arrived in her mailbox, its forged script mimicking Julian's, filled with hollow apologies and pleas to talk like old times. Olivia saw through the ruse instantly. Julian never wrote by hand, and the sweet perfume on the paper bore Sophia's unmistakable mark. She tore the letter apart, its fragments fluttering down like the wreckage of her shattered trust. But what stoked her fury more were the rumors spreading through Silicon Valley's tech circles. On anonymous forums and private chat groups, she was painted as a deranged wife, a jealous woman bent on destroying Nexus Tech to spite her husband. Each whisper was a dagger's thrust, yet Olivia refused to crumble. She felt the baby in her womb, a small but steadfast heartbeat, reminding her she could not afford weakness. The war escalated one afternoon at a seaside cafe in Sausalito, where Olivia sat alone, watching waves crash against the shore through the window. Sofia Vega strode in, clad in a striking red business suit, her eyes gleaming with smugness. She sat down uninvited, her voice smooth but sharp as a blade. "You're just a bank, Olivia. Julian's the brain." The words struck like a blow, aimed at Olivia's pride. But she lifted her gaze, calm and piercing, and replied, "You're standing on the foundation I built. Wait and see how it crumbles. Sophia froze, her smile fading before Olivia's steely composure. She left, but Olivia knew this battle was only beginning. Amid the brink of isolation and pressure, a sudden spark emerged. Mia Torres, Julian's former assistant, reached out to Olivia with a brief email, proposing a meeting at a small Berkeley park. Mia, a petite woman with keen eyes, had worked at Nexus Tech in its early days, but left after growing disillusioned with Julian's changes. Under the park's oak trees, Mia revealed a chilling secret. Sophia had manipulated Nexus Tech's financial data, concealing illicit expenditures. "I can't stay silent anymore," Mia said, her voice trembling but resolute. "You deserve the truth." She handed Olivia a USB drive containing internal emails and balance sheets, proof that Sophia was not just Julian's mistress, but the mastermind behind shady transactions. Olivia gripped the USB, feeling as though she held a new weapon, sharper than even her investment contract. She thought of the long nights she'd toiled to support Julian, the dreams she'd shelved to let him shine. Now, this truth was evidence she fought not just for herself, but for the integrity of Nexus Tech, the dream she had seeded. Under Berkeley's sunset glow, Olivia felt a profound shift. She was no longer alone. With Mia and Claire by her side, she was a warrior armed not only with a contract, but with truth. The evening breeze swept through, carrying the scent of an approaching battle, and Olivia was ready to face it. The dim glow from the computer screen in Claire Nguyen's Palo Alto law office cast a soft light on Olivia Harper's face, highlighting her eyes, now sharper than ever, yet harboring a faint, unnamed worry. She sat at the long wooden table, hands clasped tightly in her lap, feeling the gentle pulse of the baby within her, a quiet reminder that this fight was not just for her. Across from her, Claire and a team of forensic accountants pored over data from the USB drive handed over by Mia Torres, Julian's former assistant. The air in the room was heavy, not with tension, but with the chilling truth slowly unfolding. Each click of the mouse, each line of numbers on the screen, was a piece of the sinister puzzle Sophia Vega had crafted, with the complicity, or blindness, of Julian Pierce. The data from Mia was a dark treasure trove. Guided by her, Claire's forensic team traced Nexus Tech's financial transactions, uncovering a sophisticated web of fraud. Sophia had siphoned off $4 million from the company's budget, funneled through a shell company in Delaware, a ghostly entity existing only on paper, designed to hide the flow of money. The funds didn't vanish into thin air. They were used to purchase a lavish Malibu mansion, its glass walls overlooking the Pacific, where Sophia hosted extravagant parties. A magnificent yacht, christened Aurora, moored at Santa Monica's marina, was also bought with company money. And then, invoices from Tiffany, detailing purchases of diamond necklaces and emerald rings, glittered like ornaments of Sophia's boundless ambition. Each revelation stabbed at Olivia's pride, yet each was also a bullet in her arsenal. What chilled Olivia most was Julian's role. The major transactions bore his signature. Those bold, confident strokes she once adored, now like marks of guilt. He had approved these expenditures, either complicit with Sophia or blinded by love. Both possibilities left Olivia with a hollow ache. The man she had sacrificed everything to support, the one she once believed a genius, was either a calculated traitor or a fool manipulated by passion. She glanced at her hand, where her wedding ring once rested, now just a faint circle on her skin. The pain was no longer a blazing fire, but a smoldering wound, urging her forward. Claire looked up from the screen, her eyes flashing with the thrill of a strategist sensing victory. "This is the knockout blow, Olivia," she said, her voice low but resolute. "Your investment contract proves ownership. But this data, it paves the way for criminal charges. Sophia didn't just steal, she violated federal law, and Julian, complicit or not, won't escape accountability." Claire's words were like a jolt of electricity, awakening a new strength in Olivia. She felt herself transform, not just the betrayed wife, but a warrior wielding truth, a weapon sharper than any threat Julian or Sophia could muster. Yet, as Claire continued strategizing, Olivia placed a hand on her belly, feeling a gentle kick from her baby. This newfound strength came with a new fear. She was facing two powerful enemies, willing to use any dirty tactic to protect their empire. Could she shield her child from the storm ahead? Was this fight worth the cost? She closed her eyes, drew a deep breath, and envisioned a future where her child grew up in a world untainted by deceit. Her resolve hardened like steel. She wasn't fighting just for Nexus Tech, or for justice. She was fighting for this baby, for a legacy built on truth. In the dim light of the Palo Alto office, Olivia knew she had crossed the point of no return. The road ahead would be grueling, but she was ready to walk it. The meeting room doors at Nexus Tech's Mountain View headquarters swung open, and Olivia Harper stepped inside, each footfall a silent proclamation of strength. Morning sunlight streamed through the glass walls, illuminating her sapphire blue dress that clung to her form, accentuating the pronounced curve of her 5-month pregnant belly. Her hair fell softly, her piercing eyes sweeping the room, devoid of any trace of the silent wife who once stood in the shadows at the Four Seasons. She was a queen, not by virtue of a crown, but through a will of steel forged from pain and determination. The board of directors, a group of middle-aged men in expensive suits, sat around the gleaming ebony table, their gazes wavering between skepticism and irritation. Julian Pierce, at the head of the table, wore an air of arrogant confidence, his smile thin as a blade. Beside him, Sofia Vega, in an elegant gray dress, exuded the smugness of one convinced victory was already hers. Olivia sat across from them, Claire and Nguyen at her side, the lawyer's eyes sharp as a sword, ready to slice through any weakness. The room fell silent, the air heavy as before a storm. Julian spoke first, his voice smooth but laced with mockery. "Olivia, you're wasting everyone's time. Nexus Tech is mine." His words, like an arrow, aimed at her pride. But Olivia didn't flinch. She felt the baby within her, a small but steadfast heartbeat, fueling her strength. She wasn't here to beg. She was here to reclaim what was rightfully hers. Claire rose, her voice cold and clear, cutting through the air like a laser. She signaled an assistant to dim the lights, and the large screen at the room's end flared to life. The first slide appeared, a scan of the 10-year-old investment contract, Julian's bold signature stark beside Olivia's meticulous one. It declared her $600,000 investment convertible into a 55% controlling stake in Nexus Tech. The board members murmured, but Claire pressed on. The next slide showed bank statements, tracing the flow of funds from Olivia's trust to Julian's startup account. "My client," Claire said, "is the true founder of Nexus Tech, not Mr. Pierce." But the fatal blow came when Claire unveiled the evidence of embezzlement. Slide after slide flashed up. Invoices from a Delaware shell company, Sophia's forged signatures on multi-million-dollar transactions, and images of the lavish yacht Aurora moored in Santa Monica. All purchased with Nexus Tech's money. A final merciless slide displayed Tiffany invoices for extravagant jewelry, perfectly timed with illegal transfers. The room went deathly still, only the board members' ragged breaths audible. Julian, his face ashen, gripped the table's edge. Sophia, her confidence shattered, stared downward, her hands trembling. Olivia stood, her voice ringing out, not loud, but heavy with the weight of a verdict. "I am the true founder of Nexus Tech," she said. Her gaze locked on Julian. "Julian Pierce is removed as chairman. Sofia Vega is fired. Security, escort them out." Her words were like a bolt of lightning, shattering the silence. The board, once doubtful, now regarded her with awe tinged with respect. An elderly member, Harold Grant nodded slowly, as if acknowledging an undeniable truth. No one objected. The sound of security's footsteps echoed as they entered, ready to enforce the order. Olivia stood motionless, feeling as though the world slowed around her. She thought of the years she'd sacrificed, the dreams she'd set aside, and the child growing within her. The pain of betrayal still smoldered, but now it was eclipsed by a new strength. The strength of a woman who had reclaimed her own story. Julian and Sophia, now mere shadows, held no power in this room. Olivia hadn't just taken back Nexus Tech, she had taken back herself. Under Mountain View's sunlight, she knew this was not an end, but the dawn of a new reign. The glass doors of Nexus Tech's Mountain View headquarters closed behind Julian Pierce and Sophia Vega, the sound of the security team's footsteps echoing like the final drumbeat of a tragic play. Julian, his suit crumpled, his eyes hollow, was no longer the tech king who once commanded Silicon Valley. Sophia, mascara streaking her cheeks, moved with the gait of a defeated foe, her arrogance dissolving like morning fog under the sun. Their reputations, once gleaming like skyscrapers, were now mere ashes, swept away by Mountain View's cold breeze. In the meeting room, Olivia Harper stood firm, her gaze not following them. She looked forward, where sunlight streamed through glass windows, a promise of a new beginning. Olivia assumed the chairmanship of Nexus Tech that very day, not with fanfare, but with a quiet resolve forged through months of anguish. She ordered a press release drafted, exposing the scandal with brutal honesty. Sophia had embezzled millions. Julian was complicit or blind. And Olivia, the silent founder, had reclaimed the company to restore its integrity. The statement was not just a defiance of the past. It was a vow of transparency to the world. News spread swiftly, from tech forums to major publications, making Olivia a focal point of admiration and controversy. But she didn't shy away from the spotlight. She embraced it, not to boast, but to shape her own narrative. Days later, Olivia stood before Nexus Tech's vast auditorium, facing hundreds of employees with eyes full of anxiety and hope. Her pregnant belly, now prominent under an elegant blouse, was not a sign of weakness, but a symbol of strength and the future. She took a deep breath, her voice ringing out, clear and brimming with inspiration. Nexus Tech is a dream of integrity. I'm here to bring it back. Her words, like a flame, ignited faith in the hearts of her staff. She pledged to protect their jobs, honor their efforts, and build a transparent company free from the shadows of corruption. The auditorium erupted in applause, not out of fear, but because they saw in Olivia a true leader, one who not only saved the company, but inspired them to believe in themselves. Under Olivia's leadership, Nexus Tech recovered swiftly. Investors, initially rattled by the scandal, returned when they saw her transparency and resolve. The company's stock soared 20% within a month, a testament to the power of integrity. But Olivia didn't remain in the cold Pacific Heights penthouse. She moved to a cozy Berkeley home, its walls draped in ivy, its windows overlooking San Francisco Bay. The old study, where she had planned her fight to reclaim the company, became a nursery, adorned with pastel paintings and an oak crib. There she welcomed baby Lily, a girl with bright eyes and a smile like sunlight, born on a spring morning. Lily was more than joy. She was a new source of purpose, the reason Olivia rose each day to build a better world. As Olivia watched Lily sleep in her crib, she felt her once shattered heart begin to heal, not by forgetting the past, but by transcending it. She hadn't just reclaimed Nexus Tech, she had reclaimed herself. From the silent wife standing in Julian's shadow, she became an emblem of empowerment, a woman proving that even from ashes, an empire could rise. Each step she took, from the boardroom to the quiet Berkeley nursery, was a testament to resilience. Olivia Harper was not just Nexus Tech's chairman. She was a beacon of inspiration, shining brightly for those who had ever been overlooked. Beneath the sprawling oaks of San Francisco's Golden Gate Park, Olivia Harper sat on a wooden bench, the soft autumn sunlight glimmering on the small lake before her. Baby Lily, now 7 months old, played on a blanket spread on the grass, her tiny hands grasping a fallen golden leaf, her radiant smile dispelling every shadow in Olivia's heart. A year had passed since she strode out of Nexus Tech's boardroom as a warrior, reclaiming the company and reshaping her life. But today, a letter from Oregon, scrawled in Julian Pierce's trembling hand, stirred memories she thought buried. In it, he apologized for his betrayal, pleaded to see Lily, and swore that his downfall, losing Nexus Tech, his reputation, and Sophia, had changed him. Olivia held the letter, her fingers tracing its lines, feeling as if an old wound had been touched, painful, but no longer bleeding. At first, a sharp anger flared within her, as fierce as the day she stood in the Four Seasons ballroom, watching Julian crown Sophia. He had no right to ask for anything, not after what he'd done, not just betraying her, but stealing the dream she had sown. Yet as she gazed at Lily, with her sparkling eyes and crystalline laughter, a gentle truth seeped into her mind. Hatred, however justified, was only a burden. It wouldn't hurt Julian. It would wound her, and perhaps Lily too. Olivia closed her eyes, breathing deeply the scent of freshly cut grass in the park, and felt a profound shift. She didn't need to forgive Julian, but she could let go. Not for him, but for herself and her daughter. She agreed to let Julian see Lily once, under strict supervision, at a small cafe in Marin County, where sunlight streamed through large windows, casting a warm but neutral glow. Olivia sat in the corner, Lily in her arms, as Julian entered. He was no longer the dazzling man in an Armani suit. Faded jeans, a worn sweater, and dark circles under his eyes made him a shadow of his former self. When he saw Lily, a raw, honest pain crossed his face, and tears rolled down as he bent to embrace his daughter with a tenderness Olivia had never seen. She watched, her heart no longer stirred by old love, nor weighed down by hatred. Instead, she felt a strange lightness, as if a door had closed, leaving space for new light. As Julian left without promises, Olivia held Lily closer, whispering, "Mommy will build a world full of love for you." She returned to her Berkeley home, where ivy-draped walls and Lily's room symbolized her new life. Olivia's story spread across Silicon Valley and beyond, through articles, podcasts, and social media, becoming a beacon inspiring millions. From a silent wife, she had become an emblem of resilience, proving that from the ashes of betrayal, you can rebuild, stronger, more loving. Each day, watching Lily grow, Olivia knew she hadn't just defeated Julian or Sophia. She had conquered her own pain. Olivia's story reminds us, true strength lies in rising from pain and choosing love over hatred. What would you do to heal your wounds? Share in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel to never miss another tale brimming with emotion.